don't stop, girl, you're making my head spin. And those eyes.
Hey guys, this is Unseen Studios. I'm your host, 𝘗𝘦𝘥𝘥𝘪. Today we'll be interviewing the owners of Peony and Pine Weddings, aka the Westbrooks. Okay, let's do this. What services do you guys provide?
Well, we are wedding coordinators. So, yeah. What does that look like?
We do like day of stuff. So we kind of make the show happen. So we can tell it to stop or we can say it's going to happen now. And we coordinate all the vendors and we talk to everyone who's involved. We run the rehearsal and we're just in charge of everything. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What made you want to start a wedding business?
I'd say, there was early on, Janelle had some friends that had a wedding that was going to be done at their church. And so she has the ability to do that. And she just is super coordinated. And it just felt like when we did it, it was really simple. And then from there, it just kind of kept growing. So
yeah, I think it kind of started for me when I was younger. My family just grew up going to a bunch of weddings, and then we were like the last people there because we were always helping clean up. But it was like a joyful thing. It wasn't like we're going to stay and clean up and whatever. It was just kind of like, let's be a helping hand. Let's help these families that put on this big event. And so I just grew up staying at weddings, helping with weddings. And whenever we go somewhere, it was like, oh, the LaFours are going to stay and help with weddings. And so I never dreamed of owning or helping with weddings or like owning a business in it. So then I think when we were dating or engaged, we started helping with weddings. And then we're like, maybe we could do this. So we did a few. And then one day we were just like, are we going to own a business? I don't know. And here we are owning a business. So yeah, that's kind of how we started. It was kind of by accident. But yeah.
Still going.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3. What is the startup cost for your business?
Well, I think so. If we're talking about, we were licensed only a year and a half ago. So if we're talking about that, that's a different thing. If we're talking about from when we started actually doing weddings, there was a very minimal startup cost, especially in terms of just coordinating. If you wanted to go into different things like decor, planning, if you wanted to expand into photography, all that kind of stuff, like obviously the costs are going to be a lot bigger. But in terms of just starting a business,
I'd say probably for us it was under $2,000.
Yeah.
You have your like LLC that you have to pay for, and then all the little things like if you're going to use Canva to help you make designs for like planning stuff. Taxes because you're now a business, it files differently, so you have to pay for that. So I'm looking at a startup cost of a whole year. I would say probably like $1,000 to $2,000 for us.
Okay.
But if you're looking at just what started your business, then it'd probably be like $200.
Oh, all right.
But we don't need a lot of stuff.
No.
There's things we've bought just to have like a trailer or things like that. But we kind of just can do it without having to put a lot of money into it, which is nice. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you guys find vendors and like partner with them?
Yeah, so we kind of first how do we find vendors?
I think early on it starts with weddings that aren't really as upscale as we would be able to take on now. A lot of the weddings that we would take on then, the venture wasn't quite as much. We're coordinating with vendors from outside sources, but that they're close friends already doing any of the catering.
It's kind of like the bride and groom are already pulling from their friend groups to say like, hey, I have this friend that's a photographer. I have this person who's a florist. So that's kind of how we got the connection with some people. And then when we are working an event, we are looking at vendors and being like, would we want to work with them again?
Yep.
How are they acting? What's their attitude under stress? Because if like weddings are stressful. Doesn't mean that they're bad or chaotic, but they're stress. And so it's like, do you want to work with this person who obviously cannot handle stress and is being like really rude to people? So, I think early on we just kind of found some people who was like, we want to do this as a side thing, but how do we get into wedding stuff? So we were kind of like, we've worked with you enough times, we'll throw you on our list. And so that's kind of how we've collected vendors. And then when we go to weddings now, we just kind of, we'll go up to them and be like, hey, we like you. Like, we have a business card, and we just have like a list of all the vendors we worked with and who we like. And so those are the people that we will like offer to our bride and grooms and everything.
Yeah, I think early on, it certainly for us wasn't so much as we are seeking out a ton of different vendors, but that we're building up our own rapport. And through doing that, we just naturally got into vendors that we wanted. For a person who wanted to jump into the deep end early, I'd say a lot of that would have to do with marketing and getting yourself out into spaces where other vendors, and just different clientele. It's all about your marketing ability. We were able to do that kind of in a slow game, building into what this is now. It was a lot more, just word of friends, that kind of stuff, rather than trying to really gun ourselves into what this is today. So,
yeah.
Cool. Interesting. How would someone go about starting their own business in your field, or just in general, like any type of business? What should they do?
Well, here's the thing about weddings. They are always happening. They always will be happening. It is not something that is like, it's only happening in this time era. Like, people will always be getting married. And more times than not, they want a photographer. They want someone who can coordinate, so their eyes aren't, or their hands aren't in like multiple things. Their eyes are just on like, I'm marrying this person. So even if it's an elopement or like a 400 plus wedding, like vendors are still needed. And so, like when there's a vendor, normally they're booking out for like 2025 already or 2026 already. And so, sorry, Riley wants to be part of the interview.
She's welcome.
So people are already booking out. So when you're finding like a photographer, they may be already booked out. So there's always a need for more photographers. There's always a need for more florists and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it can be kind of scary for someone who wants to start a business, and the side of like, how am I going to get clients? Like, how am I going to be able to do that? And there's places like, I'm part of a wedding Facebook group, and I put my info out there, and I just say like, hey, I'm running a deal, or my books are open for this time. And people are always looking for something like that. So it's nice to have a little Facebook group, or when we go to venues, we have a few venues that we're on like the preferred vendor list. So when a bride and groom go and book with that venue, the venue will say, hey, here's our list of day coordinators who we prefer. So there are ways to get your name out there, and there are ways to kind of do that. And then with whole like, just anyone starting a business, it can be kind of scary. I was talking to some of our friends a few weeks ago, and we were kind of just saying like, well, I don't really know what we're doing. Like, we own this business, and it feels like we don't know what we're doing. Every time tax season comes around, I feel like I cry a little bit because it's like, I don't know how to do it. But I don't know. We're just doing it.
We're just doing it. And
like, you're
great.
not going to learn until you get into it. I think you could probably do as much research as you wanted, but when you get into it, I think you kind of just are going to learn as you go.
I think it's a really simple 2 criteria. If you're not looking at something that you have a majority passion for, if you don't enjoy it at least 51% of it, don't do it. Like, don't make it a business for yourself. If you cannot enjoy at least 51% of what you're doing, you're going to hate the majority of it, and it's just going to be hard. It's not going to be fun. And we enjoy 90% of weddings. And then it needs to be incredibly volatile. So it needs to be something that's not like trendy just now. I wouldn't tell anyone, well, like, go start a business on something that you just saw on TikTok that just started. Like, actually go find things that people have been doing and continue doing, even if it's in new ways. You can be creative, but as long as it's sustainably good things, make something that you enjoy and that has always been around. and pursue that and be able to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay to learn through the whole process too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's something to add on. Like people have hobbies and maybe they enjoy, let's say like flowers. They enjoy putting flowers, like bouquets together and stuff like that. But if turning it into a business they're going to lose the heart and the, like the fun and enjoyment of it, then I wouldn't do something like that. Like
Okay.
if we were like, oh, we enjoy weddings, but now that we're doing it, it's like, oh, this is more a job than like we're having fun, then I would reevaluate it. But we love weddings and we have so much fun. Now there is a little bit like we haven't gone to many weddings that we're not a part of or like have our hands in.
Sure.
But there has been like I think one wedding we went to and we were just like sitting at the table like we are not going to judge what's happening at this wedding. We're just going to enjoy it. And it just was one of those things like as a coordinator mind, you're like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do this.
As you become a professional, you become the biggest critic in that category.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of like,
interesting.
We still have so much fun, but we got to always check ourselves kind of thing.
Nice job.
Yeah. So you gotta have like a balance of fun and like it's work at the same time.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
Okay, to run like
100%.
successful
Yeah.
business.
100%.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
If it's all just fun, then there's going to be a whole side you're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are just going to see like, oh, they're cool to like be around, but they're not very professional or whatever.
Or this isn't sustainable, you know?
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's not very sustainable for any sort of monetization or anything like that. It just doesn't work. So, yeah.
All right. Next question. What are some of the good and bad things about running your type of business?
Let's just say we've had no bridezillas, but we've had some, what do you say, momzillas?
Mother of the bridezillas?
Yeah, maybe a few mother of the groomzillas.
Never mind. Both.
Yeah, there's this like almost entitlement sometimes. It's never the bride and groom. Like we haven't experienced any bride and groom
No.
that's like been hard to deal with. It's always just the family. They feel like they know what's right, or maybe they wanted something a certain way and they never got their way, and so then they try to convince us to like, no, this is how it's supposed to be done. But when we enter into talking with the bride and groom, we always ask them, like once we've set up that we're going to work with them, we always ask them like, who do we need to keep an eye on at the wedding? Who do we need to like beware of? And one bride sent us a whole list with pictures of every single person and like disclaimers on them.
That was
that's
not
insane.
allowed.
Yeah, it was like there were some people who were not allowed to be there. Some people like watch out for this, watch out for that. So I think that's a side that's like, yeah, it's
interesting.
It's an interesting, kind of like it could be the bad side of what we
Right.
do, where it's not always, I don't know.
Never had to physically remove anybody. Never had to
Been
like,
prepared to.
Been prepared. Definitely been
Yeah.
prepared to.
Yeah.
But never had anything where it got that bad. But that is where the stress comes in, is where it's actually not the people very directly. Like it's not the two people that are getting married. It's actually
Like
maybe coming from a good place, wanting to make it the perfect day, but making it worse by being just too stressed out and too many hands in the kitchen, too many hands in certain things, and it just gets a little overwhelming, and not knowing how to be helpful when you want to help, and you're just making it so much worse. I'd say for me though, that's such a small side of it. That's only been such a small fraction of the weddings, and the good side of it is that we just think so highly of marriage, and the whole process of it we think so highly of, and then to see the faces of the people on the day, I mean, even not knowing who they are very well, it makes us really joyful to be able to do that.
We do weddings for people who are Christian and non-Christian, and it's special when we get to do a wedding that's Christian, because you see two people coming together who love the Lord and want to make him the center, and just seeing like the sanctity of marriage between those two as they commit and say their vows. It's really special.
It's beautiful stuff.
And even for the non-Christian weddings, it is really special to just see these two people's lives come together. They have like, you know, the groom's family, the bride's family, and then their friends. And yeah, it's a special time, and you kind of get to learn a little bit more about them and their dynamic. So that's really good. I feel like there's more good than there is bad. Yeah.
Way.
There's always like those random situations where like somebody's gotten too drunk and they're trying to hit on girls and not fun stuff. But we've survived.
And I think too I think that's part of our business is we don't mind shouldering the bad in parts of it. What the goal of us as vendors is if there is something that goes wrong, if there is something that's bad, our goal is to remedy the problem without it being known by the bride and groom.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
you do not need to know or be aware or have solutions for the problem. That's what we're there for. Is that if there is a problem, it is fixed and you don't even hear about it. Maybe until months later.
Yeah.
But, you know, or ever. I don't know.
We
So,
tell them if you want to know, you can ask after the wedding what crazy things happen. But
I'm not coming to you for advice when something goes wrong because this is your
yeah, and everyone tries to go to the bride and groom.
Don't.
And so we're always like intervening and always, you know, telling them like, nope, that is not what we're doing. We have I feel like we have the executive decision on a lot of stuff.
Yes.
The bride and groom give that to us. And so when something doesn't go as planned, we just change it and make
a lot of trust
roll
there,
with it.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool, actually. All right. We already answered that. Okay, what is the process like of like organizing a wedding? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's hard because it's like, I feel like when my parents got married, it was very traditional. There's very, like, this is what you do. It happens in a church. You know, the pastor of that church is going to do the wedding. It's all very traditional. And now there's no traditional thing. You know, it's just, normally there's like a unity candle where you light, but now it's like they may do a sand, which is like still feels traditional, but you may just do like random things. They may even just say, hey, we're not going to do anything like that. So yeah, I feel like setting up for, sorry, Riley's just being a little dramatic. I feel like setting up for like the wedding in particular is what you're asking, right? Not just working with the bride and groom.
Like working with them, yeah.
Okay.
Like, what does it look like behind the scenes?
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I would do is I would just do like a meet and greet interview, or not interview, but like, get together.
Just go get
Normally
coffee.
Get coffee, which is great. It's a good tax write-off. But we'll go and get like coffee. Just kind of ask them like how they met, get to know them a little bit, and then we tell them this is the services we provide. We kind of give them the background scenes of like what we would do. It had to be very clear because sometimes they feel like they're in a desperate state of like, you know, they may have all these, like their parents or their friends coming at them saying like, what about this? What about that? And so they feel like chaos in their head. And so a lot of times they just want to like contact us as much as they can or ask these simple questions. So we like to say, like, set the guideline of what we're going to do. If we're doing day of coordinating, we'll tell them, like, if you need a vendor list, we'll give you a vendor list, but we're not going to, like, contact every single vendor for you kind of thing. So we tell them what we do, and then they kind of tell us what they're looking for, what they need help with. And then I don't ever assume that they're going to choose to work with us. So I always say, like, if you choose to work with us, you know, this is how we can get started. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, we want to work with you, and we'll just start planning then. Or they'll say, like, yeah, we'll, you know, contact you later this week or whatever. So always have, like, an initial meetup, and then we'll meet again and kind of just, I don't know, just talk about all the little details.
Yeah, it goes into that trust factor. They're entrusting us with the day to be ran the way that they envisioned it, and sometimes they don't know what to envision. So like we help try to bring out whatever they're trying to think about in a little sense in very short snippets of time. So, but then we get to catch the vision, and then we show up already having understanding what they're wanting out of it. So then we show
the want
up,
is like the biggest thing.
100%.
Like if they were like, we want it to be very close and intimate, then we know when it comes to even the decor that we're not going to want everything spread out in a space. We want it in a close quarter area.
Sure.
Or if they're like, we really want it to be loud and fun, then we know to like, do something a certain way.
So make sure the DJ's dialed in. There's good
Yeah.
transitions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of trust that goes into why we do this is so that you are not operating in any way trying to make the day happen, but you're just trying to get married to the other person
Yeah.
and have the best day.
Yeah,
So.
totally. Yeah, I would. Yeah, there's just things where I tell them all the time, like, you've never been married before, so how would you know what you need to do, kind of thing. Like, we are the people who have done a ton of weddings, so we can tell you this is what you're going to need. And I think that relaxes them, being like, yeah, I shouldn't be stressing. I've never done this before. And so we give them a timeline of, like, this is what the timeline should look like.
Yep.
We ask what's most important to them, what's something they really want, to be made sure that happens on the wedding. We give them ideas of, like, we don't have to do speeches. You can do speeches at rehearsal. And just kind of give them different variations of what we could do.
Yeah.
And then I don't plan any like specific wedding, like the actual ceremony until about a month before, because if you just meet, you're going to have like a 5-hour meeting. They're going to leave feeling like stressed out, feeling like, oh my gosh, that was so much info. So I try to give them like little bits of like, we're just going to talk about this. And then next time we meet, we'll talk about the, ceremony. We'll talk about the reception and kind of break it down, because there's already so much going on when it comes to weddings. So I'd say that's kind of how we plan it.
Yes.
And yeah, like I said, we do day of coordinating, but if it's like close friends, we'll do decor for them. And so if it's those people, then we'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll pull it out and set up a little thing for them and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. How much does a wedding cost, like on average?
Okay. Like for us, or just in terms of just normal weddings in general?
I feel like you should answer for
both.
Normal.
Or wait,
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do both.
So
We'll do both.
We'll do
Okay.
both. Normal weddings, I think was around $30,000.
I feel like that's like an average. Like
Average.
people do, I would say 30 to 50,000.
Yeah.
Which is like insane.
Nuts.
That's like a down payment for a house. You could buy a car, a brand new car.
a brand new car. I would say average for us in the ballpark of
Like 10 to 15.
10, 12, $15,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are way under. Like,
Yeah.
Our weddings that we typically do are not as upscale into that kind of stratosphere of $30,000.
Well, I mean, not that the weddings aren't upscale. Like, we've had very nice weddings. We
Totally.
do. It's just when we offer our vendors, because our vendors don't do things full time, they do it at a more inexpensive price. So we have someone that we use for catering, and on Normal, it's like $25 a
Right.
head. So, like,
Right.
if you have, a 300-person wedding, you're paying $25 for each one to eat. Like, that's a ton of money.
Yeah.
She would do maybe like $8 a head. So like you're saving a ton of money.
Yep.
And so that's kind of when we can kind of help them get their vendor list, or give them ideas of like, hey, instead of doing this at send off, instead of sparklers, which are going to probably cost a lot, why don't you do something like this? Or I'll even say like, I have extra of these. I'll just let you have them or use them. And so we just, there's something about starting, I don't know, having your wedding and starting off by like being in debt from it, or just having like so much of
Right.
your savings was just put into this. It's kind of a little bit like, if you can save money, like let's make it happen.
Our model, even when we got married, was we didn't want to spend more on our wedding than we did on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
We pretty much spent close to equal, I think, on both.
Yeah.
But either way, I just, I think our goal has always been giving everything that the bride and groom have thought of and dreamed of for that wedding, but also just making it reasonable.
Yeah.
And just like, you do not have to lose an arm and a leg just to have the wedding of your dreams. Like, you can do this affordably. There are resources that you can find. There are people and venues that are really, really affordable. We want to be there as a resource to helping find those things. you don't have to spend $30,000 to have a good wedding. And you certainly don't have to spend $30,000 to have a good time with your family to celebrate that. So
I think we also remind them, like, when people get married, like, people want to love on you. And some of that is saying, like, hey, I will. Sorry, there's Riley here. It's bothering me. But, like, sometimes it's, like, it's one of your friends saying, like, hey, I will, I don't know, like, DJ for you. Or, hey, my mom has this massive, like, flower garden. I would love to give you flowers. It's things like that where it's, like, you as a person feel bad, like, accepting that. But, like, that's how they want to love you. It's not them feeling like they have to do something for you. It's just them saying, like, hey, we love you is what we want to do. And we had that at our wedding. Like, someone's like, our venue is free. So just to put that in perspective. But, like, someone's like, hey, I really love you guys. I want to make your guys' wedding cake. I want to do this. And so that's what we try to remind people. Like, when people offer, it's not them looking for you to give something back to them. Like, they just want to love you. And so
it's definitely not pity. Like, no, just let them.
So maybe that helps the weddings that we do not be so expensive. I don't know. But on average, I would say our weddings that we're doing are not $30,000 or plus.
I'd say in the $8,000 to $15,000 range is what we look at majority of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Next one. Let's see what we got. How long did it take you guys to become, like, successful?
Are we successful?
I'd say we're very successful. Last summer we did 8 weddings. And again, that's a side venture, so it's not even a full-time thing. So that's a big undertaking. I would say by measure of success, if we're talking about yearly having weddings that we're doing, I would say it took 3 years for us to get successful.
Yeah.
But that was never, again, being a side thing, a side gig, it was never an issue that we didn't have more than 2 weddings a year the first year or 3 weddings.
Well, I think also, like, we have parameters. Like, if this was our full-time thing and we were not in any, like, ministry aspects, if we weren't doing youth group or having the life group we have or things like that, if we dedicated all our time to this, we could be very successful in it. Like I said, weddings are always happening. And I think partially my fault, but we don't charge as much as we should for our services. And so I think people see...
Get it while you can.
I think that our, like, prices they're pretty hard to beat. So I think, like, we could definitely have
we could be doing
so
a wedding
much
every other week.
But also we have very good reviews, and we are on venues preferred list. Like, I don't think we've had one wedding that was not a good situation with the venue. Like, maybe like with some family members or whatever, but not like
having to almost remove them.
Yeah. But, like, we have been very successful, and I think that's just, like, what God's blessed us with is not just what He's put in front of us, but just the way we are. And so, I think we are successful with the parameters we've put up. We could probably have a wedding every weekend if we wanted, but we'd probably be dead. So, yeah.
At that point, that's just a full-time job.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, it does take a little bit of time. There is a little bit of, like, every wedding we walk away from, we're like, okay, what can we do better? What was something that was good and positive? And I think doing that is helping us be more successful, to be like, I really like the way that, we did this rehearsal. I really like this, or maybe we shouldn't have been, said this one thing or whatever. So I think reviewing and looking back at what we've done it helps us be more successful as we move forward. So. Yeah.
It's really important too. Success is not always the number of times that you do it, but the quality that it's being put out. And I think we have really good quality. And I think the thing that we've done a really good job at is for ourselves is just separating what is our work life and what is our home life. And even when our side gig is us two, letting it be what it is. If there was something that was bad at the wedding, if there was a person that just could not stand to be around or just caused issues, like letting it be what it was. It's there, leave it there.
Yeah.
And kind of setting up, like you said, the parameters and I don't know, an expectation for everyone else. Like, well, we're exempt. We have certain things that we're doing today, and we are exempt of a lot of things. We are not just the, I don't know, catch all for a bunch
Yeah.
of different jobs. Like, that's not what we're here for. And it's not my responsibility to cover for the lack of, if there are holes in everything. Because at that point, I'm just going to have 7 different jobs that day. So
Yeah.
have to be strong and kind of firm and no, we've set up parameters. This is what our job is for the day, and kind of sticking to that.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, last question. What are your business goals within 5 years, 10 years ish?
Yeah.
Wow, we've gone back and forth on this a lot because I don't think we know. We've talked about like what would it look like if we had employees, and then it's a little bit like Ryan was on bringing that up, and I was like, whoa, like that is a lot. And then we did a wedding in the last 6 months or something, and they are actually lawyers, and so we traded services. So we did their wedding, and then in return, the husband is gonna give us some services. So instead of like having employees, we would actually like contract out. So if like you were like, hey, Malachi, we really need you to be like an extra hand at this wedding, then we could contract you out and we could pay you that way without having to like employ you. And so, so I think for us, like kind of getting the legal side of that figured out would be cool. I think in 5 years, we still want to be doing this. In 5 years, like God willing, we would have children. And I think that will add a different dynamic. My parents live like a minute from us. And so that's good and exciting because they're like
so helpful.
They're ready to like be like, okay, go do a wedding and we'll watch your kids. So I don't see that ever as something that's going to stop us. I think it will maybe like put a halt on things a little bit.
I actually contest with that. I think the moment that we have kids, obviously like infants, it'll be hard. But like, man, when we have kids, and you don't have, Lord willing, the goal is I don't want her to have to work a full-time job, and I want us to actually ramp up the production on this. Whenever she is not working her full-time job, that gives her the ability to meet with more clientele, to be able to scope out more things, to be able to honestly just market ourselves better. That's really hard. So finding ways to marketing ourselves better is always the worst, but always just so necessary.
I'm no influencer. Don't go to my Instagram page. It's embarrassing.
We both hate it, but it is absolutely crucial for a business owner to be able to some capacity. You have to market yourself. So I think 5-year goal is, Lord willing, like you said, have kids, continue to build the business, and then make it essentially her job, still as a side thing, but not a full-time thing, but it's her baby. She's running with it, and I'm there to go to every single wedding and help with all of the kind of the manpower and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. And man, like, building a little bit of rapport where we have people to come in, like contract, kind of subcontracting people out, and even building kind of a little bit of clientele with other people who can also be like assistant coordinators.
If we were out, like if we were on vacation, instead of having to break a contract with the client, we could just be like, hey, we're going to set up all this stuff for you. We're going to meet with you, and then we're going to hand you off to this other
just for day of coordinating.
And so I kind of already have someone who's kind of like that. And so when we can't do something, I call her in. She's done a few weddings for us. And so that'd be kind of cool to like be able to kind of train some people up and see how to do that. And I think one other big goal thing would be fun to like partner up with vendors or venues and just say, hey, like if I recommend you to this venue, they'll give you 10% off the price of the venue. And then the venue, let's say they have a bride and groom come to them, the venue could say, hey, we have these day of coordinators we love to work with. If you go with them, they'll give you 10% off kind of thing. So I think that'd be really fun to partner up, or like a lot of times videographers and photographers partner up.
Yep.
And so it'd be kind of fun to partner up with a photographer or someone and be like, hey, we're a package. If you don't want us a package, that's fine. But
Here's a promo.
Yeah.
If you go with them.
So I think
Yeah.
it'd be really fun to find some people to like partner up with
We
and do
definitely
that.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are kind of some goals, but it is a little difficult, like as a teacher, to find time to do the whole like advertising and making stuff and whatever. And I don't feel like I'm good at that. So it's like, I don't know, during my prep, I'm like, okay, what can I do? Or I don't know. It's just kind of a lot sometimes, but yeah. So
There's some big goals, but we don't really know what this thing looks like.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
every season, I think also like a lot of wedding businesses, they go all year round, and we've really kind of kept it in the summertime or like early or like spring and then like fall a
Yeah, like
little bit.
Early fall.
Yeah. And so I think this year's gonna be a little different because we are pretty busy this summer just in our normal life. So I feel like we're really gonna try to push to like spring and fall and winter weddings. And so yeah, I think just like figuring that out.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't really know if we know what we're doing, but we're doing it.
We don't know what we're doing. No.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for my questions. Y'all want to endorse your business or anything you want to?
Yes. We're Peony and Pine Weddings. You can find us on Instagram, and I think that's the only place you can find us at.
That's the only social media.
Yeah.
We do have a website.
It is a little bit of a joke. I bought the domain name, and I did not check if it was spelled right. So you can type in Peony and Pine Wedding. There's no G at the end. .com, and then you can find us. And
we might just ride this one out.
Yeah, maybe that will be our 5-year plan. We'll buy another domain name, and so that is where you can find us.
You can go and find a lot of the
reviews, pictures,
testimonials, and a lot of our
like our pricings
and different packages that you can find on our website. So in terms of the details, you can go to our website to find that stuff. The social media is just going to have a lot of snippets, a lot of pictures, just a lot of the day of scenery that you're going to find for the weddings, kind of get a feel for what we've been able to do. Again, not the best marketable product ever because we don't do social media that well, but that's, pictures and videos, man. So
that's us.
pretty much it.
Peony and Pine.
Peony and Pines.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for hopping on.
For sure.
Always. Cool.
All right, now we just dance at the end and party, I guess.
Mm.
All right.